Welcome to Micro Biz Matters, a 7-day podcast in the lead up to Micro Biz Matters Day.
The 7-day podcast for Microbiz Matters. The great news is that Microbiz Matters is tomorrow, the 11th of January, and we will be doing a final wrap-up episode that will go out on Sunday in the normal Bridging Gaps, the business podcast slot, which is generally around 8 p.m. GMT that it gets released. For today's episode, I just wanted to run you through the agenda or the schedule for the day and to let you know a little bit about what some of the other guests that I've spoken to have said, a little bit about the ladies over lunch, even the ladies over lunch session, and really just make sure you're primed for tomorrow. So tomorrow starts at 7 a.m. So lucky Tony and Tina are up at the crack of dawn. They'll be at the Guildhall, ready to start live streaming as soon as possible. Everything will be available on YouTube, and there'll also be Facebook live streaming throughout the day as well with Tony's interviews. Tina's generally on the YouTube, and she's interviewing and speaking to lots of different people. So Let's Rock is Tony and Tina starting off the day, and they'll have a number of guests joining them. At 7:45 is Digital Know-How, and I'll be one of the guests that are joining them for that. That takes us through till 8:30, and this is learning about apps and systems and things that make micro business better. From 8:30 to 9:15, we've got the Strong Minds and Strong Business. This is a really important part of business and life generally. It always has been, but it's so wonderful that it's being recognized and acted upon in such a strong way these days. So a really fantastic session to talk about how you manage the well-being of yourself and your business. At 9:15, we've got Family Business, and one of the guests on there is Anita Brightly-Hodges, and Anita, you may recall, was in yesterday's podcast making an absolutely fantastic offer for 11 free 1-hour Skype coaching sessions, along with putting out a blog and really spending time retweeting and promoting the day as well. So she'll be on at 9:15 with some of the other guests. At 10 o'clock, we've got the Freelance Heroes, looking at that growing world of freelancers, followed by 11 o'clock, the makers, creators, and manufacturers. Now, you might be thinking, well, how can I do all of this? This is just wiping my day out completely. But the great thing about this is it is all being streamed live. It means that you'll be able to go back and watch sections that you maybe weren't able to watch at the time. It means you can dip in and dip out as time permits. So it's really very flexible for how you want to be involved. Tony and Tina are just really strong believers in that this is a social media event as well. So there'll be lots of activity on Twitter supporting it, and anything you can do to help generate awareness of the day, of the issues, and of the campaigns would be absolutely fantastic. So once the makers, creators, and manufacturers session is over, and you might recall again yesterday we talked about that session a little bit, and they shared some of their excitement and enthusiasm about some of the amazing and wonderful individual businesses that we have here in the UK. Then we move on to the network of networks, and again we spoke about that yesterday. At 12:30, we've got the Ladies Over Launch. I'm absolutely insistent on calling that launch when it's actually ladies over lunch. And this is just a bit of a play on words of, ladies who lunch. But it's really talking about the good things about women who run micro businesses. And of course, it's open to everybody. You don't need to be a lady to listen, whatever whatever gender you are, please do join in and participate in this session as well. And then from 13:15 to 14:15, we've got Microbiz Matters, and it's a panel of guests who've been there, done it, and they'll be taking questions from the audience and across social media. 2:15 to 3 o'clock, Let Us Entertain You. And this is about microbiz owners who know how to entertain. Now, going on in Hull, the day goes on a bit further. There's actually entertainment there. Some of that will be streamed as well. And, I'll be interviewing Tony and Tina while that entertainment is going on. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get that out live. I'm going to try to, but it may be that it gets incorporated into the final wrap-up episode on Sunday evening. But it'll be really exciting to hear them. They'll have been buzzing all day and just full of, energy, I'm expecting, and excitement over how the day has gone. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to join up with Tony and Tina again and just share a little bit about the ladies over lunch. There we go. I got it right this time. So let's see what they're saying about that session.
Well, the ladies over lunch came about really because obviously there's this saying, isn't there, the ladies who lunch. And if you are a micro business owner, the last thing you can manage to do is socialise with friends, let alone go out and lunch. Or equally, you may go out and lunch and network and do whatever. So it was a little bit of tongue-in-cheek session. And I'm very much on the fence with the women in business needing whether it's their needs are different to the men in business and that side of things. But what I do know, because I am a woman and I am also a mother and a grandmother, what I do know is that women in business support each other in a different way. But that is not solely women in business, because there are also men in business who have a caring and understanding of women and how they work. Tony would tell you that the best person to have as a business partner was a woman.
Yeah, definitely.
But unfortunately, I have come across far too many men who are on that, and even in setting up their micro business, you talk about them. I find it quite interesting when I'm delivering a pre-start workshop or a startup workshop, and it's, what is your vision? Where do you want to be? And what the women are wanting and what the men are wanting are often very different. The way they want to look at achieving has to be financial, it has to be material, it has to be, whereas women are like, I want to spend more time with my children. It's certainly not 100% women say that, 100% men say that in the slightest. But I think it's an interesting session. I mean, and we had, in 2018, we had Laura Henry, Kate Hardcastle, Elaine Clark, and Laura Bartlett as guests. Now, Laura Bartlett is in her early 30s. She has a brilliant magazine called House of Cocoa. She's like, I don't want children, because if I got an opportunity with House of Cocoa to go off somewhere in the world, I'd have to put them in the overhead locker and take them, that type of thing.
Just you can only have small children.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I didn't how they tie me down, but she's what she's achieved is amazing. Her story.
Transportable children.
Which they are transportable. Now Laura Henry she created a great network for childminders and is very child focused and is about the children. Kate Hardcastle has kids that have come with her across the world when she's worked, and the amazing stuff that she does. And Elaine hasn't got got the children, and we were discussing this, and it was a brilliant conversation because it was women coming at it from a different angle, and I think that's what's important. And as I say, it really is that whole take. I mean, I've got friends that gave up asking me years ago if I could join them for lunch because they're like, oh, well, yeah, we never know what you do or where you're going or what you're doing. So we just won't ask you anymore, and that's that. But yeah, so it's a bit, and there's no reason men can't join us.
And I think, but the other important thing, I think, Tina downplays it, but Tina's done a fantastic amount of work for that whole area that we've said that the day is about recognition, action, and learning. And the recognition of women in business is actually very important to the day. And that's one of the things that Tina is doing. So, you know, for example, I was really interested. I just sat in the session. I didn't actually say anything. I was interested in listening to, because it's the first time we've had Kate Hardcastle, who's a big supporter of ours, but she's on the telly all the time, and you know, various things, and she's, you know, the top, I suppose, retail expert, isn't she, in the UK? And I'm just amazed, as I am with Tina, kind of thing, how many different roles someone like Kate has, but how she manages everyone so professionally. She's a professional singer as well, remember?
Oh,
you know,
wow.
she's got to earn a living, and she's got to bring up the kids. Serious? I mean, and so the recognition part of what these women are achieving, yeah, for the world, for the communities, is very important. And I think Tina's bringing that by actually having that conversation amongst this amazing group of women. And they are an amazing group of women, always in that session.
Kate's trustee of the Diana Award as well. So she's actually been, she's a lady that I met on Twitter. She is a perfect example of how a Twitter relationship becomes a great friendship. And so I met her on Twitter. She's from Yorkshire, so we went to meet for lunch. We chatted about Microbiz Matters. She founded something called Positive Image. I became a voice for that. She's done amazing stuff. She has the business Insight with Passion, but then she brought a group of people together for lunch in Leeds, and that's how I met Laura Bartlett. And for me, that is how all of this grows and develops, and your network grows and develops, and then you introduce somebody to them, and yeah, it's just a great way of, and I do think women are better at that than men are, though they don't always realise they are better at it, because often they struggle with the confidence to be able to go out and do. So yeah, so that's ladies over lunch. But I better get fed, because the one thing that I do think is really important when you're running your own business is that you come to understand yourself as an individual and your needs and your health and your well-being. And the one thing that I know is that I need feeding 3 times a day. And the one thing, I get hangry. And my brother also gets hangry, but my brother doesn't admit he gets hangry, whereas I'm like, I need to eat, and I need to eat now. So my husband's like, you need to eat now. Tony, who I'm in business with, is like, you need to eat now. My youngest son is like, my husband can just go, but my eldest son gets really hangry, and so does my nephew. So it's like, but again, it's back to that understanding of all of this stuff makes it easier to be the person you are and run your business.
As you'll know if you've been listening to the podcast, or if you're following the build up to Microbiz Matters through social media, one of the things on the day is about I Gave 11, and it's really about giving something to support other micro businesses. And we've had some really lovely, generous offers from different people, and I will remind you of those in the show notes and also tomorrow. But I wanted to finish off with a couple more I Gave 11s and one definition of success. So the first one we're going to start with is Mandy Dineley. Mandy is the founder of My Beautiful Pen, and she's also an integral part of Dinely Penny Music. Mandy's part of my team for the podcast launcher, and she and her family provide original music and voiceovers. And they've actually done the music for this podcast, as well as my normal podcast for that matter. So I'm really delighted to have Mandy join me and to share her I Gave 11.
Yeah, so I think that would be really useful to name 11 other micro businesses.
Okay.
Then that's what I'll do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
That's it. It's lovely to speak to you.
It's
Thank
lovely
you.
to speak to you as well, Mandy. Our little excitement in the middle.
Yeah.
Everybody adopted several other tables. And now we hear from Richard Woods and his I Gave 11. Richard is an entrepreneur with multiple businesses, and specifically we were talking about his Lead Gen Academy.
Well, the Lead Gen Academy is a wonderful place to come and learn about different types of marketing. In February, we're talking about Facebook and Instagram advertising as a good example. So I'm happy to give away 11 free tickets to the next Lead Gen Academy event. So if anyone wants to come and see us, leadgenacademy.co.uk, and they can come and direct message me, Richard_Woods on Twitter, and we will give away those free tickets for anybody that asks.
That is wonderful, and I can absolutely vouch for it being a very, I think I always use the word generous. It's all about giving you information and helping you to actually go out and do it rather than leaving you with questions. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Last, but by no means least, I wanted to share the first part of my conversation with Richard about definitions of success. Success is something that I feel strongly is different for all of us, and that we're all striving for different things, and what one person's version of success is completely different to another's. And whether we know we've found success or not, it is another question that comes to mind. And I just felt that Richard's response, whilst you hear us laughing, was actually rather touching. And I wanted to share that with you before we wrap up tonight. What is your definition of success?
Wow. Boom. Come on. I thought we were talking about lead generation here. My definition of success is to really feel that I'm happy looking back at it's a one-on-one game for me. Like, you know, I'd be lucky enough to do some wonderful things, to be on TV, to do all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people have said, "Oh, well done, you've done well." And actually, is that my definition of success? I don't think so. And when I actually look back at myself and go, "Well, have I really feel that I personally feel successful?" And only I will know in that moment. And do you know what my genuine opinion is? I don't think I'll ever feel that I truly have been successful. That's for another podcast, Deborah.
Sorry, for people listening, they can see Richard, can see me opening my mouth to go.
Yeah, no, that's deep. That's for another day.
Richard and I did continue our conversation, and we did find some areas that he could see success coming in. So left me feeling much happier that success was on the horizon for him. However, there's no time for that just now. And as you've probably guessed, there's lots of other information and sharing that my other guests have done as well. So I'll be incorporating some of that into the Sunday podcast, as well as possibly some other excerpts from Tony and Tina, my interview with Tony and Tina on Microbiz Matters Day itself, and really just trying to tie it all together for you. So don't forget to look out for I Gave 11, to think about what your I Gave 11 is as well. Make sure you're tweeting and just sharing with hashtag #MicrobizMatters, hashtag Power of Plenty, hashtag I Gave 11, everything you can think of. Look for Microbiz Matters on YouTube for the live streaming, on Facebook Live, and I really hope to see you enjoying and participating in the day itself. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much to Tony, Tina, and all of my other guests for taking the time to talk to me and to share very openly with me, as well as giving so much to other micro businesses. This podcast was produced by Deborah Leggett from Bridge Road Consultants Limited, with original artwork by Gemma Story of Infinity Creative and original music from Dinely Penny Music.
You've been listening to Deborah Levitt on Micro Biz Matters, a 7-day podcast, part of Bridging Gaps, the business podcast.